Hello, Robert Meade from the Power of Imagination. I'm here staying at my beautiful resort on Mindoro Island. We're on the west coast of Mindoro Island, about central as you head south. And we're staying at a lovely resort on the beach. And I had a very brief message for you I wanted to leave with you. You know, I had a woman the other day on our Facebook site, Vagabond Mystic Teachings, and she was asking for help because she's having trouble with her 16-year-old child. And everybody around her is also telling her that this teenager is incorrigible, there's no way, they're only going to get worse, and yet she believes that her son is going to turn out great. And so she's battling, and she was asking for help. What can she do to imagine better? And so the message from Neville Goddard that I'd like to share in her behalf and in behalf of all of our viewers comes from one of his books and lectures. I'll leave the reference for you in the description, but this is from Neville Goddard, the great mystic teacher, and this is what he was talked about here. See, there was a student that, similar to that 16-year-old, was giving parents and teachers a heck of a time. In fact, they were thinking of expelling the child, and this is that story. Reading directly from the story, it says, "One student kept impinging upon the teacher's mind. But this, thought she, would be too difficult a case which to test the truth of what she was learning about the mystery of rebirth. That is, becoming the person you want to be and having that be for others as they manifest their best self. All knew, teachers and students alike, that this particular student was incorrigible, out of control, beyond becoming a better person. They thought there was no hope for this teenager. She was just the type that would not make the changes. The teachers, including the principal and the school psychiatrist, had sat in judgment on the student just a few days before. They'd come to the unanimous decision that the girl, for the good of the school, must be expelled upon reaching her 16th birthday. So she was 15, just turning 16. She was rude, crude, unethical, and used the most vile language. Sound familiar? Do we know any teenagers like that? You might. The date for the dismissal was but a month away. So, this is what she did. She convinced herself that she was going to apply the Lawofassumption no matter what, successfully. As she rode home that night, the teacher kept wondering if she could really change her mind about the girls, and if so, would the student undergo a change of behavior because she herself had undergone a change of attitude. So the teacher had decided that they would change their attitude and belief about the behavior of that child, a 15-year-old going on 16-year-old child, first. They chose to view them differently, and let's see how that worked out. Okay, so the following. This is what happened. She brought the child's, now this is what she did. She took it in her imagination, and just before going to sleep that night, she imagined the child behaving the way she wanted her to behave and act. It says, she brought the child's face before her mind's eye and saw her smile. She listened and imagined she heard the girl say, "Good morning." This was something that a student had never done since coming to that school. The teacher imagined the very best about the girl and then listened and looked as though she heard and saw that what she would hear and see after these things should be. The teacher did this over and over again until she persuaded herself it was true and fell asleep. I've talked about this in my other videos, how in changing on a subconscious level with ourselves first, we do this by imagining what we want to hear, see, and have happen, right? The changes we seek, what we want to manifest, and we think and imagine that over and over as we fall asleep. So this is what she did, not for herself to become a better person, but to help change the attitude of the student. So she imagined that student being the person that she felt that student could be, a completely changed attitude. So she started with herself, and she imagined that true for the student and fell asleep believing it. Now here's what happened. Here's the results. The very next morning, the student entered the classroom and smilingly said, "Good morning." She actually said good morning the following day, the student did. And it says the teacher was so surprised, she almost did not respond. And by her own confession, through the day, she looked for signs of the girl's returning to her former behavior. So she really couldn't believe that it actually was working. And she was looking for signs that the child was going to go back to misbehaving again. However, the girl continued to be transformed in that transformed state and conduct. By the end of the week, the change was noted by all. So everybody was noticing this girl was improving. The second staff meeting was called, and a decision of expulsion was revoked. As the child remained friendly and gracious, the teacher has had to ask herself, how could this possibly happen? Well, the answer is simple. Transformation is, in principle, always possible, even for the worst case scenarios. For the transformation, the transformed being within that young girl lives in us also. So she literally transferred that great attitude to the child. That's powerful if you think about it. And it is only a question of becoming conscious of it. So she became conscious of the young girl being her very best. Now, how can we apply this in our own lives? Do you have a nephew, a niece, a student, or someone in your class, or perhaps one of your children in their teen years that just seems that they're incorrigible, they're smart alecks, they misbehave, their language is bad, their attitude is bad? Do you sincerely take the time to imagine them being better? You'd be amazed at the results you can have. My teenage son, for example, I'll fully admit, went through a stage like this when I was raising my son. He's now 33. He's amazing. He's the calmest, most peaceful, respectful young man that you could ever want to meet. But he wasn't for a while, right? But I always knew that he would become the man that I knew he would be. I never lost faith in that. I believed it true. And I always imagined him behaving, doing what was right. And as it turns out, he did. And so we can change immediate circumstances with people. I've done this also with telepathy, and Neville Goddard talks about that, literally like this woman did, transferring your thoughts and behavior to theirs. The trick in it is really no trick. The trick is that we have to become, as Neville talks about here, completely convinced and conscious of it. We have to believe it. So it starts with our own awareness first and our own belief system first, that that person can be, that deep in them lives that better person. And being fully conscious of it, fully aware of it, we can bring out the best in them. So with your children, with young people that you deal with, for example, always believe the best in them. Always know and be conscious of, not of their misbehavior, but seeing them as being better than the best that they could possibly be. And you will be amazed the first few times you try it, and then you'll come to know that it's really a way of life. Being conscious of seeing the world and experiencing the world the way you want to is really a way of life. You can practice it as this teacher did with her child, the student in the class, successfully, and you can do the same. So again, this is Robert Meade. I wanted to share that brief message with you. Have faith, always believe, and believe the best in people, and you'll see the best bloom from them. Take care. This is Robert Meade from The Power of Imagination. And by the way, please subscribe and comment, and thank you very much for listening in.